Hey guys, what is going on over there? This is Joe Pickup with So Much Monsters. I heard somebody, somewhere out there wanted to know something about Topogun, so I'm gonna help you out. Give you a little walkthrough, a little tutorial, a little something something, a little whatnot, and who's it's. The first tool you're gonna learn here is the Simple Create tool. The Simple Create tool has a toggle on and off for make faces. When it's off, you won't be creating faces until you actually finish a polygon, whether it's 3 or 4 sides. So we're going to start with off. Um, you click 1, 2, 3, those verts, and you'll note I never actually finished a polygon, so it didn't actually create a face, but here, 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one, you hold Control and click the last vert, and it will snap to that vert and create the face. Um, this is going to work in a bunch of different scenarios. The Control click to select verts. Control will snap to vertices no matter what you're doing. The second version of this is make faces on. What it's going to do is create a polygon from the highlighted vert, the white one, to the closest vertex where you click. You'll note it's going to just like drop right next to it, and unless you're paying attention to where you're putting those verts, you might misfire like there, just there. I wanted to pull one down, but it was actually creating from the last selected, so it dropped it right on top of another vertex. Um, when you're in make faces mode, you don't need to make every corner. You can make one corner and it will snap the closest possible it can. So it's a great way to build out those edges. Every once in a while, you'll see me when I make a triangle like that, and you see me break the edge. All I'm doing is holding Shift to drop a vert in the middle of that edge. Uh, so I'll show you breaking it. There's a break, uh, and I'm going to continue. I'm actually going to build this geometry out by breaking the edges. Every time you add a vert, it's snapping to the surface. So you can see here when I snap, um, no matter what I'm doing, it's sticking to the surface. I'll rotate around here, and you'll see it's still connected, it's still on that face. Doesn't matter where I built that face, it's going to always stick. So here's a good example of the greatness of Topogun, where you can actually see I'm manipulating faces, edges, and vertices at the same time. Um, doesn't matter what you select, it's still going to move in the same space on the model, conforming to it all the time. So here I'm shift clicking on edges to break and snap it in and make some new geometry. So now I'm adding a little bit more detailed edges to build this surface here on this little plate. I'm going to crack that edge and connect it to the other side. And you'll see it do the same thing across this front side as well. Every time you make a new vert, like I said, it will conform it. So here I'm actually moving an edge. You see there's a little letter right next to your cursor. When you highlight, if it says R and you double click, it will select the ring, and if it says L when you double click, it will select the loop. Loop being what I was just moving there. Let's see here. Some soft select situations. You can use soft select pretty nicely to smush some things around. If you had geometry you wanted to realign to a new mesh, you can put soft select on. You can see the radius it's affecting there. But it works on faces, edges, rings, whatever your selection is. And it's, like I said, still always conforming to the surface. Kind of ridiculous. You can get some nice jello situations going on, but keep that up and you'll have the messiest geometry in the world. It'll be the best. Alright, so next tool. Oh, here I'm just going to build out a little geometry. You can see like how quickly you can build out uh, some shapes. Uh, ideally, you like really you just use each of these tools that I'm going to show you. Use them when it's appropriate. So I use the simple create tool 90% of the time, I'd say. Um, the tools are awesome, but I feel like this is just the go-to for me because it's very very straightforward. You know exactly how it's going to work, and uh, it's easy to modify. If you need to add some edges here and there, it's super quick to break and add some new geometry. Um, so yeah, this is just simple create with make faces on, which is what I always use. I really rarely have make faces off. Um, but yeah, just building out this little plate here for you. I think I'll do this on each tool. Uh, right clicking will switch you between simple create and simple move or simple edit, the top and bottom, or sorry, top and second to the top uh, tools. When you're using simple edit, you can actually hold control and drag verts to another vert, and it will actually weld it for you. So it's a very quick process to weld. Here I'm selecting a ring, or sorry, a loop, and what I want to do is I'm going to remove it. There's a delete edges, which is very similar to remove edges in Max. It's the exact same. And here I will add a ring back in, or add the loop back in by selecting the ring and using connect ring. And it can, like I said, all the tools are conforming. So when I drop that new geometry in it, it was actually back on the surface. So here, just some quick clicks through, and you have substantially more detailed geometry, but still, it's not just subdividing; it's actually keeping to the surface. It's a nice smooth geometry. Beer break. But yeah, so it's really quick to build out these meshes. You get a good amount of detail from all of it, or I mean, as much as or as little as you want. Uh, so the next tool is the bridge tool. Bridge tool is pretty snazzy, interesting little workflow you can add to your sweet pipes you got going. Um, I'm just making a couple pieces of geometry that are separated, grabbing the bridge tool, not that tool, the bridge tool, and as you see, like when I highlight it, actually it shows you the border edges of all the model pieces, and it will let you, based on proximity, pick and choose edges to create between them. You can also set it to face mode. And just build a whole face. You don't actually have to just drop in edges. But whenever you build edges in Topogun, you when you create when you finish a polygon, when you have a 3 or 4 sided contiguous edges, you will have a polygon dropped in. You don't actually have to create anything once the verts are there and the edges are there. It's in. You can delete them, but not necessary. So here there's a face dropped in. You see how it's calculating the faces based on where my mouse is and what the edges are around it. Here's the edge version, creating some quick geometry, bridging it all together. It's very very silky smooth to do. Works great when if you're building different muscle groups and things like that. Next is the draw tool. I'm gonna draw where I want my geometry, which kind of seems crazy, but it's totally true. Guys, I'm not even lying to you right now. It's brilliant. You hit preview, and it will tell you, the red dots will tell you whether or not it's realizing it's there or not, and then you hit evaluate, and it will create the geometry for you. Inside of the line tool, you can actually select different edges by right-clicking on them for various endgame usability stuff. The next thing you can do is set points there to a number, and that will on your line it will create X number of points, so 4 here. And so what this allows me to do is create these three cross sections, set it to loft, draw across it, and when you evaluate or preview it, you'll see the red dots again. When you evaluate, it will do a loft across it, so similar to Max or Maya or really any modeling package. It's a super handy tool as well. Dum-de-dum. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Okay, so another example of using the points on the lines to create a quick loft. And there's another tool inside of these. It's the eraser tool. You'll see you select it just there, and it will erase the line. It'll pull it back, and it will reestablish where the points are going to be. So like I made it too long. I wanted to shorten it a little bit, and that's all you have to do. So where you draw the loft line needs to be intersecting the line. If you rotate around the model, you'll be able to see it may not be touching the surface. But here, I managed to get the two red lines, and that means it's detected both of them, and it's going to draw. So there's my geometry from that. I'll do some bridging. And remember, in the simple edit tool, you can control and drag and weld. So there you go. It's welding those together, and then it creates a solid little target weld situation. So now I guess I'll just build out some geometry for you. Just a quick go at it to see what it'll look like. I may speed this up, I don't know, we'll see. But those are all the basic tools. There's nothing particularly advanced about what I'm doing here. It's all exactly the same stuff I was describing before. Simple edit tool to move things around, keeping on the surface. Simple create there to drag out an edge. This will be simple create for a little while. Holding shift to break those edges from triangles, turn them into quads. Pro moves. Don't even worry about it. Always working around surfaces. Like this, in this case, I want that to be hard. I'd probably harden those edges, but it's part of the silhouette, so I'm definitely building on that. Here's a quick go around. You can see the using simple create to refine geometry. You can make a pretty basic model from the beginning and just rough out the like peaks and valleys, and then refine beyond that. Like that's surface detail that I maybe don't need to have that I'm adding there, but like for this nostril, I can refine it and then really get in and make that shape pop out a little bit for silhouette purposes, and not really have to worry about like initially building exactly the model I want. You can kind of sort of make the big shape and gesture in a little bit closer and closer to what you think the shape should be. Very similar to how you would paint. You paint your big shape and break it down and refine it until you find that last level of detail you need. In this case, I decided these plates need to be a little bit more pronounced, so pull in a little bit more geometry. When you're in the simple create tool, if you control click something while you have something highlighted, like you were actually making a face already, it will connect it, even if you don't realize it. Like say you connected one end to the other, it will make a mess of your geometry when you export the model out. So what I like to do is when I need to start, like I'm going to move to a new space and I want to start working on, say, the back of the plates or something like that, I would right click to switch to simple edit, and then right click again to switch quickly back to simple create, and then control click to select the vertex that I want to start at, so that I don't connect between them. Otherwise, you're gonna have just some hot garbage. You don't want no hot garbage. Total mess. Here I'm gonna go back and use that draw tool, and I'm gonna put on some points and make the eye. Just quickly, you can see like a quick loft around the eye. I believe there are plans to do some extrude features based on geometry, like extruding on loops and stuff like that, which will make this sort of deal much quicker. But as it stands, I feel like this is a very the tools themselves speak for themselves. So quick chunk of geometry for the eye, sort of build out radially from there. Got a little island of geometry here that at some point I'll bridge up once I pull it out a little further, get a little bit more space in there. More space, my space, your space, our space. Give me some space. So yeah, so refining some shapes, getting some edges that I think will be appropriate, helping silhouette and whatnot. I'm just babbling now. I feel like I really should have sped this up at this point, but I'm not advanced enough for this shit. I'm sorry, guys. Bridging it up, bridge that business. Look at this, So much advanced green lines. Green lines are good. Green lines let you know you're doing it right. Also, not entirely enough beer for this project. I don't know. Recording audio is a little bit more tedious than I thought. Well, just for you guys, because I love you. I don't know who you guys are. But I still love you. It's kind of a open-ended deal. Don't worry about it. Don't ask, don't tell. That's the military's response. So yeah, this is all just a lot of simple create, simple edit, back and forth. Draw tools are pretty good for like if you really know what the draw tool or draw splines and stuff like that are really good for situations where you really know what your edge loops are going to be. For this face, he's a little bit lumpy. I wasn't really sure how detailed that would go. But for like say a human face, I mean it's pretty tried and true for animation for morph targets or otherwise. You have this pretty much the same loops in the face, so it's pretty easy to draw out the faces with the draw tool that you'll be using on a head of a human or something to that effect, or something perhaps a little more humanoid that would move its lips and eyebrows in the way that you'd expect. But as this guy maybe not the most appropriate for that sort of thing, wasn't really sure, you know, and thusly I mostly just use simple create and try and find the right shapes for the face. I'm not saying these are particularly A++ pro stuff or anything, but for the purposes of the video, I think it's appropriate. Yeah, it's all pretty straightforward. Click, 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 click. Clicking close to the vert. When you're getting things that you really don't want a certain, like it's building from the wrong vert, you can click and hold the mouse click down and drag, and it'll actually just slide it across the surface, so you can slide it back to the space that you really wanted it at. You'll see me undo a lot of times where like I clicked a little too close to the wrong vert and really didn't want it there. I know it sounds a little budget, but it definitely is in practice much quicker than you'd expect. But yeah, so that's Topogun. Gotta do moves, guys. Gotta do moves. Do moves, break records, and drink beers. That's basically what you need to do. That's my thoughts. And there's the mesh. Turning off the reference on the top there, the view net, view mesh, view ref. Net is the edges, mesh is the actual geometry you've built, and ref is the high res that you've put in.